Today we're talking with Jessica Strickland of the Cooperative Extension Service. She is the horticulture agent. Hello!
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, we were talking earlier about kudzu bugs
Yes.
that have entered into our area.
Right.
These things, how long have they been?
Probably just past couple years, just over past 2 years.
So they have become a major issue here.
And really just this year they've started to become more of an issue. They showed up a little last year, but not really, you know, a lot going on with them last year.
I meant to ask you earlier, do they have any natural enemies like the usual things?
Yeah, not that I've heard of or seen so far.
That's not good.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
but hopefully, you know, some solutions will be found, you know, eventually to where we can help get better control of or manage them better.
I certainly hope so. It's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, today we want to talk about, or I want to talk about the soil testing.
Yes.
Now this is a good time of year. No, actually it isn't a good time of year for homeowners to be doing this because the farmers are doing it right now, right?
That's right.
This is a very busy time of year.
It is. This is when a lot of people go ahead and try to get their soil samples turned in and to get ready for the springtime. And so they go ahead and turn them in during late fall, early winter. But we've had some things change this year that would probably change when people want to send off those soil samples. They've started charging during the peak season $4 per sample.
Right.
And that peak season is running from December 1st through March 31st is when they'll charge $4 per sample.
They're going to start charging $4 per sample.
That's right.
For a soil test.
That's right.
All right. Now, what about is this going to be year-round or?
Well, during that time of April to the end of November, it'll still be free. So it's going to be just a matter of deciding when to send off your soil samples. In particular for homeowners, they are in a way better off to send it in that off season from April to November because they'll get the results back quicker.
Okay.
And it's okay if you get it back any time of the year that you can go ahead and start making your soil preparations. And so it's kind of just thinking of it a little bit ahead of time or waiting until later to get it done to avoid that fee.
So the fee is $4
Yes.
and that's up until March. And then after March, March 30th?
March 31st.
March 31st. After that, then there's no charge.
Right. Yeah, it's still free during that time.
Yeah. And how quickly do you get it back after that, though?
Usually, you're talking about 2 to 3 weeks on that off season. Peak season, you're talking about anywhere. You're talking about a couple months sometimes. Because that's their busy time, and that's what they're trying to do is kind of spreading out when those samples are coming in, to where that way everybody will get their sample results back maybe a little quicker.
How often do we need to be soil testing?
Usually, I say about every 3 to 4 years.
So you don't do it every year?
Yeah, you don't have to do it every year. I tell gardeners to keep your soil results, and as you make amendments in 3 years or so, get another soil sample and see how that's changed or adjusted, and you can kind of monitor it. As you work on improving your soil, and you can kind of use it as a monitoring tool, oftentimes.
All right. So. You don't do it every year, but when you do it every 3 to 4 years, then you determine the amendments that you need at that time. Now, I've seen people putting amendments in their soil around their garden and in their lawn every year.
Yeah.
So they don't need to do that then.
No, really your soil test is the most accurate way to know what's in your soil. If you're just putting out lime because you know the soil is naturally acidic, that might be okay, but you could eventually have too much lime in there and actually cause your pH to be too high. So you want to get that soil test routinely every 3 years or so, and to monitor it to adjust how much amendments you need.
About every 3 years. And then what if it's, and we're talking about a lot of scientific stuff here. Now, what about if I can't read my soil test?
If you can't read the report, you can call the extension office, and we can help you in interpreting that report.
Oh, okay.
And what you're looking for, usually the first thing we look for is the pH. That's how acidic the soil is, and that determines whether you need lime or not in your soil.
Is that's called pH? Like fooey. Foo. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're looking for your pH first. Now, what's the difference between alkaline and acid soils?
Acidic, if you think back to science and chemistry where you had that scale from 0 to 14, anything in 7 was neutral, and anything below 7 was considered acidic.
Okay, well, what grows well in, say, acidic?
Most of your plants like slightly acidic. They like around 6.5 for most plants. You do have a few plants that like more like soils that are more acidic. Blueberries, centipede grass, azaleas, rhododendrons like slightly more acidic, around 5.5 or so.
All right, now where's the dead center?
7 would be neutral.
7 would be neutral.
That's right.
It's neither too acidic or too alkaline.
Right, and plants
right
like it just slightly acidic.
They like it a little less than 7. So
right.
if you're a little less than 7, most plants will be okay.
Right, and what they're doing and how they determined that was through a lot of chemistry and so forth, but you're looking at when you add fertilizer, you know, your nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, those nutrients to the soil, the plant's availability to take those nutrients up through the roots depends on the soil pH. So ideally, a soil pH of 6.5 is where most of those nutrients are available to the plant, so the plant can take them up.
So the plant is healthier,
That's right.
it's eating better, it's working out better and exercising.
That's
It's got nice green color to it.
Yes.
All right, what helps the flowers when the color of the flowers?
A lot of times your flowers, or sometimes your phosphorus, potassium, you know, helps more. Nitrogen's more of your leaves. It's the green color.
So the higher the first number on the fertilizer bag, the higher the first number, that's the higher the nitrogen, then you're going to have more green there.
That's right.
And you have to find a good balance for that.
Yes.
Do most plants all take the same kind of fertilizer?
Most of them, you know, you got your typical garden fertilizers of 10-10-10 or 8-8-8. But it goes back to that soil test that they'll give you phosphorus and potassium and let you know if they're too high or too low. And then you can adjust your fertilizer. For example, potassium, a lot of times in our soil is a little too low and needs to go up some. So
potassium is what, the third number?
The last number, the third number on the bag. So if you look for a fertilizer that's got a higher last number, that can help improve potassium.
And that also helps you during the winter months,
That's right.
it?
Potassium helps with the winter hardiness for plants. It helps with root development.
Oh, yeah.
And so potassium's a good one, especially like with centipede grass, with better root development and better survival through the winter time when it's in the dormant season.
Okay. Now, I know I'm asking a lot of questions here, but now when you have potassium that helps the plants get through the winter, would it be advisable just to, in the latter part of the season, to throw out some potassium?
You can. Still, I'd go back to that soil report to see where your potassium's at first.
There you go. Do that first.
But then, usually we recommend around September that you can add some potassium to your centipede lawn, and that will help improve the root development and winter hardiness going into the winter. But usually when you get a fertilizer, it's got some potassium, it's going to have a little nitrogen, so we don't recommend this late into the season, you know, November, to add it because that
could generate new growth.
That's right. It's dormant, and you don't want to encourage any new growth right now.
Yeah.
And because then you could create more harm, that it could cause it to green up a little and then get damaged by
So even if you do have your soil report back, it's just a good idea not to do anything with it right now, as far as fertilizer.
Yeah, usually you're not doing a whole lot of fertilizer, especially with your lawn. When you're fertilizing your lawn, it's during when it's actively growing. And and a lot of people, that's usually a common mistake. A lot of people want to fertilize early because they're getting excited when it warms up in the spring. And actually you could do some more damage to the lawn because you'll cause it to green up too early. And it can create problems for diseases.
And if we get a late frost?
If we get a late frost, that could create a problem. So it's better to let the grass green up on its own, and then when it's actively growing, when you're talking about your summer months of May, June, July, that's your time to fertilize.
May, June, and July is the window to fertilize. May, June, and July. Don't do it before that.
Yeah, and I mean, something like Bermuda, you might be able to do a little earlier. They all green up and, a little bit different. But we have charts and information in our office that can help tell for centipede lawn this is the best time to fertilize, or for Bermuda. Okay, and one final question. I never can get this right. When do you add a pre-emergent and a post-emergent? What are we supposed to be doing right now? With a pre-emergent herbicide, what you're doing is trying to put the herbicide down and catch the weeds that as they germinate, they hit this barrier of a herbicide,
Oh, yeah.
and it gets them before they get too big
Okay.
when they've just germinated.
So this is now the time to be putting out the pre-emergent?
Probably a little on the late side. Usually you're talking about October, or even late September.
Okay, so I missed it again.
Because a lot of those winter weeds are henbent, wild onion, chickweed, and so forth. They start germinating, even though you don't see them for a while. They start germinating late September, October, and so you want to catch them as they're germinating when they're really small. Dandelions are a tough one because they're more of a perennial, and they've got that long taproot, so they're tough. But if you look for some of those herbicides that have, it advertises that they help control dandelions, and sometimes it's usually where you spray it directly on. Some of those can help. It takes some, with those perennial weeds like that, it takes some persistence. It takes some time to finally get them all out of your lawn.
Probably not going to get them the first time around.
Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, we have gone long here, and I really appreciate this information. Get your soil test. Wait until when did they start charging?
They start charging December 1st, but because of Thanksgiving holiday, it's really going to be before Thanksgiving. It's the last time to get it in.
Yeah,
so
it's
I would say
late.
probably wait until after March 31st.
March 31st. Get your soil test done March 31st or later, and it won't cost you anything.
That's
if
right.
you have to have it done right now, it's going to cost you $4. All right, next time around, we'll ask Jessica how to put a soil test together.
Okay.
All right, it's a good trick to it now. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Jessica Strickland of the Cooperative Extension Service.